have to put the timer. I hate the timer, but YouTube loves 10-minute limits. To the point of 8 seconds over, it's just too much for them to handle. They're fucking third largest website in the world, but they can't make a video over 10 minutes long. So, what I want to talk about, ironically, is related. It's related to all the trolls like Light Yagami 121, all the moderator psychophants and shit, of why we need to go to war with Iran and China. See, I would have worded this better, but after 2 times of, going over the 10-minute limit, I'm not as tactful. I'm pissed off. So, I'm going to explain to you why I think the war profiteers are wrong and how they conduct themselves in explaining to you why we go to war. They underestimate the savagery and docileness of the typical person. There's no reason to act like Iran and China are like some G.I. Joe villain. They're not Cobra Institution building doomsday devices or anything like that. Iran is at the point of nuclear capabilities, which means they don't even have the nuclear weapons yet. They're just capable of making them. That's not the reason why we need to go to war with them. We need to go to war with them because they are like Valve. Imagine America is Jim Profit. And every year, America's like, here's my money, make it happen. And then China uses their cheap labor to give us everything. You notice everything's made in China. Iran gives us our oil. Things like that. It's been a pretty good deal. We've been doing it since like 1920. And all of a sudden, when America goes to pay this time around, China and Iran are like, your money's no good here. Go away. What the fuck? Why would all of a sudden they put to a screeching halt the economy we have circulated for so long? So long, in fact, that we've become dependent on it and don't know any other way. Because they know that. Because they know that that will completely destroy America. They know that we have become so dependent on foreign production that we could not do it in time. It could take 10, 20 years to fully isolate our production back home. And them just, coming to a screeching halt in a week is not going to give us enough time to recuperate. We are not even going to be able to, graze through it, struggling and being all pissy about it, because it just boggles the mind of economists in America. So essentially, they fucked us over. Now, mind you, it doesn't mean that we cannot still trade with China and Iran, but they've made it 10 times more difficult because our currency is no good. So we have to use somebody else's currency. We have to use the yen or whatever. And we're having to do all these circles and, cartwheels and shit for them, just like Valve does with Steam. Oh, Valve says, your account could come back up. Just take a picture with you in your game with a shoe on your head, doing the Macarena, No. So, that's what it's come down to. How China and Iran think they have a right to screw over America, who's been a long-time customer, just 'cause. And all the moderator sycophants and all the little hippies who side with China and Iran are going to say that America deserves it, that America's an asshole. Well, being an asshole is no excuse for treating someone like that. I'm an asshole. Does that mean my civil rights deserve to be completely taken away from me? If you ask Light Yagami 121 and all these other stupid-ass trolls, they would say yes. But no. Being an asshole does not excuse criminal behavior against you. And China and Iran are like Steam or like moderators or whatever, and they're going to do it to America first and foremost because America is the epitome of the asshole, and then they're going to do it to Europe because, Europe is America's friend and a lesser asshole. So, you have to ask yourself where you stand morally. Is it really worth destroying the lives of 300 million people in the United States just because they were assholes? You think about that. You think about how, Valve took away my account without reason, and everyone's excuse was, well, you're an asshole. Well, so fucking what? You don't have to talk to me. No one ever forced you to interact with me. I don't go out of my way to, make you look at me and make you, interact with me. But for you to tell me that I cannot get the product I paid for and am denied the accessibility and playability of my games because I'm an asshole, that's terrorism. That is authentic terrorism. And you should have a shotgun put to your head and have your brains blown out. So, that's what it's come down to. And unfortunately, we have demoralized Americans to the point where they're not going to believe it. You're going to tell them Iran and China are the bad guys, and they're going to wipe their ass with it. Because we have gone into useless war after useless war, and I can only hope that the reason why we went into Afghanistan and Iraq and shit is because we knew this was coming. We knew how China and Iran were, because they are like Valve and THQ and all these other big corporations, and we predicted it, and we figured that going to war with these smaller countries would vicariously help us strategize against these bigger countries. That this would undermine them secretly, But I somehow doubt that. And that's how it's going to be like. I understand World War III is right around the corner. And it would take a miracle not to happen, considering the way everybody's acting about it. And there is no reason to put fault on America. Because, like me, if someone screws me over, I'm just supposed to take it. I'm just supposed to waste my money, waste my time, and grin and bear it? No. So America is just supposed to take the brunt of it, and all 300 million Americans have to lose their first world lifestyle and degenerate down to a third world country where their money is no good anywhere because China owns a fucking monopoly on the global economy? No. So be prepared for mutual destruction. And that's another thing. Mutual destruction is not the worst thing that can happen. If you're like me and have been treated like shit all your life, and you're full of bitterness and resentment, the worst thing isn't your mutual, weakening, where you both are fucked over severely or you're both dead. That's not the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is knowing that that son of a bitch is still alive somewhere, living it up, laughing at the fact that he's alive and you're not, or that he's doing relatively well and you're not, jacking off to the fact that, his life is doing so good, and I screwed over Jim Profit, I took his money and I made him a bitch, and that's the worst thing that can happen. Worst thing that can happen is he's better off than you. That is the level of hate you need if you're going to understand how the world really works. So, I'm nearing the 10-minute limit. I'm already into 8 minutes, so I'll briefly end this with the fact that you have to learn how good and evil works. There really is a moral paradigm, and we are undermining the intelligence, the integrity, and the loyalty of our citizenry by treating it like, we have to hate a different country or a different group of people because of abstracts, because of cartoony supervillain crap of, how they torture their citizens, and, they treat them like slave labor. All the countries do that. They might do it differently, some might do it more than others, but they all do that. And that is because it's about money, it's about power, it's about grandeur, and those things require those kind of negative sacrifices. That's not how you're going to win over the public. You're going to win over the public by pointing out really what makes them bad. China and Iran are not bad because of their civil rights violations and their doomsday devices and all that shit. China and Iran are bad because they are the steam of the global economy. Everything goes back to Iran and China as far as the money goes. They get to have a say in everything. And if anyone comes down against them, they are screwed and they are denied all the precious resources and labor that those two countries have to offer. And nobody can afford to stand up to them. And now they're just saying that if they will it, someone is cut off from their glorious empirical rule. And unfortunately, that happens to be America now, who we've always thought was, the big bad guy. But it turns out they aren't. And I guess that's it.